They're back. Guys are reporting for OTAs. Who to keep your eye on? We're going to tell you exactly who it is and why, starting right now on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome in. It's midweek. That means you get a dose of Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com, our faithful guest, inside reporter, and man who knows everything about town. Welcome, Matt. Nice to see you. Folks, I'm Ryan Tracy, founder of Rogue Analytics Performance Consulting, NFL33.com, and RGR Football. You can still check those out all the time, everywhere, because just like this show, which we thank you for making your first listen, and make your second listen another Locked On show. We're here all the time, 5 days a week on everywhere. And I've been doing this 9 years, Matt. We've been doing this together at least once a week for, 8 years at this point, it feels like? Am I wrong?
You are not wrong. It's been a lot. So we've seen a lot together over the years, man.
We are marking your dynasty here, folks, by the ebbs and flows of the Locked On Chiefs show. So welcome in. We're going to cover some stuff for you today. Who is ready to make a surprise in this OTA period? What period is this? We're going to get to that here in a bit. Who we're keeping eyes on, because I have several questions that need to be answered here before we get to the full thing in August. And right now, guys, starting to report. They're coming back into the building for what I'm calling P3, Matt. And as you are the resident expert, could you tell me what phase 3 is and what we should be seeing here in the next few days?
Yeah, phase 3 is what I typically call typical football. You know, we're now past the strength and conditioning phase in phase 1. We're past phase 2, where you start to add some football drills, but you're still not doing anything team activity wise. Now you're fully into it. Now it's all about these 13 practices that they're going to have, and we'll call it probably 12 because one of these is going to get wiped out by the strength and conditioning test, the conditioning test, when they've got to run the gassers. So we'll say 12 practices over the next month. I mean, this is when it all starts. I mean, they look a lot like you normally see at a training camp practice. Same type of link, same type of structure, all of these things. It's when the installs start on the offense and defense, where they start putting in the playbooks and everything that they're going to run during the season and all the elements. They're going to do things right now that they're going to have callbacks to throughout the season. And, you know, guys, if they're not paying attention now, it's going to cost them later, because there's going to be some things that this team does that they started doing back in May.
It's Kansas City 101, right? This is what we do. Here's your first dose. You said something interesting, and for somebody like me who's been into the strength and conditioning side, the coaching side for like 20 plus years, the test doesn't bother me, right? But for folks who don't know what that is, and there's a lot of folks listening to this show more every year, right? So what is the conditioning test? What's it used for? What does it contain? And how many of you guys drop out this year, do you think?
Well, if you drop out, it's not good, because once you get to St. Joe, you got to do the same thing. And if you don't get it done there, you don't practice until you get it finished. And there have been times that that's happened, both in OTAs and in St. Joe. If you ever get to St. Joe and you see a guy that doesn't have an injury or anything of that nature, but starts like the first day on NFI and then comes off like a day or two later, you can pretty much bet that guy probably failed the conditioning test. So in Andy Reid, and it's changed over the years, so I can't tell you the exact number, but they run gassers, which, you know, is a half gasser is just running across the field. Full gasser is running across the field twice. So I don't know what it is now. It's always a set number for all players. I think, like back in the day, I think it was like 26 gassers or something of that nature. I don't think it's as many now, but every position group's got a different time. So everybody's got to break that time in that position group. So yeah, you know, your offensive line guys and defensive line, they're supposed to be sprinting, but they got a little bit more time to make it than your wide receivers do. So you gotta beat your time to order to pass the conditioning test. And yeah, there've been some good questions. You know, I remember a couple of years ago we were asking Brian Cook about what he was doing getting ready for the beginning of camp, and he just said, I was running because I was just told I have to run the conditioning test and the gasser. So it's like I just spent all summer running. That's not uncommon. So and for rookies and newcomers to the team, Andy Reid's conditioning test is kind of a welcome to the league moment. If you're a young guy, you should probably be passing it fairly comfortably. It's the older guys that maybe have some few miles on the knees and maybe a few dings over the years. That might be a little bit tougher for them. But the only person who ever loved the conditioning test was Tyreek Hill, who was infamous for his first conditioning test that he was like weaving in and out between guys, not running a straight line through the gassers, but was like running around guys and then circling back and basically adding length to his gassers and still passing it.
He is a beast, especially at that time when he was young too. And I think for folks who've never seen this, it is grueling. Guys have to train for it. It will catch someone. Guaranteed, it will catch someone off guard here. And as you said, you get another chance to make it so you can go practice, right? But if you don't, I do think that there's a disconnect between what happens in camp. And I think that, to his credit, Coach Reid sets this up to be an obstacle for a good reason, because especially for guys that are new to the team, especially veterans that have signed with this team, never played here before, it'll grab you. You get to training camp, the pace of practice, the pace of the drills, it will grab you if you are not in condition. I think that all kind of leads up to, the way that you do things in Kansas City. I won't refer to it the other way. But that goes in as a small part of the bigger whole about how they go about business, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And, I think of one more comparison. Anybody who's ever seen the movie Miracle, that's the exact same thing that Herb Brooks does to the Olympic hockey team, making them skate up and down the ice until he breaks them. That's a little bit how Andy Reid's conditioning task is, but that's, it's part of the culture that he tries to build with every single team. And he also adjusted for the time periods. That's why they don't do as much as they used to back in the day, because when he started coaching 26 years ago in the NFL as a head coach, you still had 2-a-days. So I think you probably had to be even harder to be able to get through all of those things. So that's what he wanted. He wanted to have a way to push his guys to make sure that they were ready for what he was going to do to them during training camp. And to his feeling is that if you can do that, if you can pass that test, then it's a physical and a mental test. The physical aspect of it is that's what he feels like is the minimum standard that you have to meet to be able to play for him, to do all the things that you have to do during a practice and to do it quickly with alacrity and to build that base, because, he's going to be reminding his guys of what they did in these practices. And he'll remind them of the gassers test, in December and January, to say the reason we did that, so that you've got something in the tank now. You've got that reserve. You've got that strength and built up in you. And the other part of it is mentally, it's, running the gassers in mid-June is pretty tough in Kansas City. Running it in St. Joe in mid-July, even tougher. So it's a mental test too. I mean, just to push those guys. And that's what, a big part of even training camp is. It's a mental test as much as physical.
I thought it was really sweet that they got a little softening rain to welcome them back in just before they have to go do that. So, hey, don't get fooled by it. Take advantage of it. Do it in June, because we're going to be keeping an eye on you. Everyone is, the entire staff, and we have our eye on some players. For me, mostly who will step out that hasn't been here before, but a couple that might grab you. We'll get to that next. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers the highlight-worthy performances, major momentum swings, and the can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player. There's never a better time to get into the action. FanDuel makes that super easy to stay in the game before the tip-off and when it's live, with player props, performance trends, as well as same-game parlays. Fans have more ways to play than ever before and to win big. All you got to do, especially if it's an injury night or something is crazy going to happen, you can get into the action right away. If you've got a read on who's heating up because of it, right now you can get on the same game parlay. Easy, and you can win big with it. If you're new to FanDuel right now, it's perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If that bet wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA. Speaking of easy, shout out to Ross Jackson, our channel manager here on the NFL and all the folks down in New Orleans that I saw last week. A lot of Chiefs fans down there, and it was fun hooking up with some of them. So I hope you guys are doing well. Keep an eye on that space for what happens next, and keep an eye on the space that is the training facility for the Kansas City Chiefs, because there's a number of things that need to go on. We've check-ins, we have things that we need to see. My first question to you, Matt, and going back to what we were talking about with the conditioning test, veterans that sign with this team have sometimes a unique challenge because you've been down the road with other organizations, and this is just a different way of doing business. The number one new veteran, quote unquote, guy with experience, maybe second contract, that I'm going to be watching has to be Jaylen Moore, and how he gets into the rhythm of not just this group of offensive linemen that you're trying to forge, an actual 5-man unit from, but how things are done, how you move between drills, how the units and the reps switch out. I think there's probably no one else that's going to have a bigger spotlight on him in the next couple of weeks. How do you feel?
Yeah, I think you're right. And in particular, because we don't have a good feel yet for how much that Josh Simmons is going to be available. I mean, let's be real, because of Josh Simmons' timeline, his recovery. Right now, the left tackle job is probably Jaylen Moore's. I mean, just 100% his. It's always possible that Josh Simmons is going to be healthy enough to work in at some point, but it's his. And it's also an opportunity for him to secure it and claim it. If he struggles right now picking things up offensively, if he struggles with identifying just kind of and kind of connecting with the offense and figuring things out, then it's going to make Josh Simmons' jobs a whole lot easier when he is physically cleared and 100% and ready to go. It's just going to be how much distance does he need to catch up versus Jaylen Moore. So, yeah, it's a big thing. I mean, now I say all of that with, noting, hey, they're not going to be in the pads until August. So, the thing that Jaylen Moore has to do right now, and all these newcomers and anybody on the offensive line has to do is just to pick things up, to kind of, show that they've got the ability to grasp the offense, because you're not going to learn a whole lot about the physical nature of the job and his ability to handle that left tackle spot in this offense until really August. I mean, and you wouldn't find that out from Josh Simmons either. Now, the team, they've learned a little bit because, he's obviously been in the building already. They've learned some things. So we'll find out kind of just what the team thinks of the players. This is going to be, even though I always note the people that technically speaking, the depth chart is kind of a off the record kind of aspect to this. It's a kind of embargoed rule of watching the practices for those of us who get to, until there's an open practice of some sort, like when they let fans in, which they do for the camp, mini camp practices in June with season ticket holders. Loosens up the rules a little bit about what we can report, but we also always try to ask the coaches and players about things to get the depth chart things on the record so that you'll learn a little bit about that. But yeah, I mean, a big part of it obviously is that we're looking to see what the team's reflection is. That's what I'm looking for, because the guy, if they're worried about Jaylen Moore, they're going to start mixing other guys in, and maybe it's Josh Simmons. Maybe they mix him in at left tackle. But he's got right now, it's his job. And the best way for him to nail down that job for the season is to do everything right and show that he can handle the workload.
It comes down to that workload, especially this time of year. Two other veterans that are on my mind, and it'll be hard to watch them at the same time, most likely, but for different reasons. Charles Omenihu's coming off of an injury, right? I know he was back last season. But let's talk about the year beyond the year it takes to recover and what that actually looks like. He needs to push. There's been obviously a little bit back and forth. Mike Edwards, different situation, went away and came back. I don't know that he needs a whole lot of reps either. Normally, this couple of weeks is about exposing the new guys to what they need to be doing, evaluating how well they grasp and absorb things. But for these two players in particular, guys that have experience in this system, is there one or the other that you think maybe needs the reps more, or the team wants to see more at this part of the offseason?
Yeah, it's a kind of a catch-22 because, like we were talking about earlier with install, they're starting to put those elements in. So, I mean, your first team, you want to have some decent number of workloads right now because they're going to be working on things and putting installs in right now that they're not going to repeat. So, for your first team, you want them to be able to get some work in. And I always say that too, if you see that players aren't there, remember, it's voluntary, so it doesn't matter by and large. And especially the more experienced and the more the veteran you are, it really doesn't matter. I mean, Chris Jones pretty much showed a couple of years ago that if you're as experienced as Chris Jones is, yeah, you can pretty much roll out of bed and know this defense and know what your role is. Travis Kelce is going to be able to do the same thing. Trey Smith, if he's not there, can do the same thing. Newcomers are the guys, and even a guy like Mike Edwards that just needs a refresher on it. And I say that even more so for like a Mike Edwards, because I think he only had the 1 year in the system. I mean, that's not enough to pick up everything. Any player will tell you that with Spags, and it takes more than 1 year to set it up. So hey, that experience he has is great. Now he can add on top of it. So for him, there's a little bit of a refresher, just picking things up again. But now it's an opportunity for him to learn the next level. It's now he's taking master's courses instead of just undergraduate. With a guy like a Minihue, you've got 4 or 5 defensive ends that you want to be rotating a little bit and getting a taste of everything, because it's obviously there's no need that you really have to give a huge workload to a George Karlaftis or a Mike Dana. Charles Omenihu's still working off some rust, so you probably do want to get some work with him. You want to see what Ashton Gelati's got, and then you want to see what Felix Anudike-Uzomah. You want to give him a chance to prove himself. So there's a lot of rotation that they're going to have to go through there, and finding reps for guys, whether it's first team, second team, third team. I mean, they'll do it. Especially for a guy like Gelati, he might get reps everywhere, and he might get more reps than anybody because he's, as a rookie, needs them the most. But it's for guys like a Minihue, I don't think it's huge. I think the biggest thing, even though he played last year, I think for a guy like a Minihue, a little bit is just getting back into the routine, because remember last year he just kind of came back and started playing. There wasn't any ramp up, so this is his opportunity to kind of ramp back into a regular season form.
And someone's going to surprise us. I think I know who that is, and I'm going to tell you right after this, and Matt's going to tell you whether I'm right or not. Folks, make sure you go to ChiefsDigest.com and Chiefs Digest here on the YouTube platform. Check out 41 as the mic, and that's where you can find Matt if he's not on television on Sunday nights, which, is always a fair bet. So make sure you check that out as well. You will not see my mug on TV. You're welcome. We'll just keep doing it this way. And I hope that you guys will like and sub here on the YouTube channel and get on the audio platform as well. I think I know the answer to this question, Matt, but I want to see if you agree with me. The guy that I feel is most ready to surprise is one that I think was underregarded in coming to this team, and is one that I think does have the ability of what he brings outside of specific experience in this defense. It is Ashton Gelati for me. I think he can be somebody that steps up right now, and we all know the hype train starts in OTAs, right? I think in a week or two, he might be leading that train. Where do you stand?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to get a chance. I mean, we've talked about that the Chiefs need some depth and need some rotation at that spot. And, I think that the Chiefs were drafted Gelati with both now and the future in mind, because obviously with Gelati, you feel like you've got a guy that could do a couple of things for you. I mean, now he can give you reps, he can rotate in, he can give you just some lengthening that depth at defensive end. Then now you're feeling pretty good about things, especially if everybody stays healthy. If you've got Karlaftis, Dana, Omenihu, Gelati, Anudike, I mean, if you've got that kind of lineup, you're feeling pretty good about things. And I think he's got the potential. I mean, absolutely. I mean, the skill set is there. It's just maybe going to be how much and how quickly does he fight for opportunities. But the Chiefs are also betting on him on the future. Because let's face it, if they're not able to get a long-term deal done with George Karlaftis, Ashton Gelati's the future there. If they move on from Mike Dana, I mean, remember he's on the second year of a 3-year deal. Could be getting close to the end for Mike Dana. Ashton Gelati maybe it's going to be Gelati and Karlaftis, manning that position 2 years from now. I mean, you're hoping that he's a now and the future guy, and not just somebody that's in 2 years from now as a rotational piece. I think this draft class has got a few different guys that could be a part of that. And the one that I just keep hearing the most about that, and there's a couple of them, on offensively, I think, Brashard Smith is probably the guy that people are most excited to see. And I'm excited to see too. But it still resonates that, the Chiefs think that Jeff Bossa is a day one kind of guy. And even though he may not have to start, and barring injuries, the idea of them getting him onto the field early and quickly and, being part of, that 4 linebacker rotation, probably not taking Nick Bolton off the field, but you might see Bossa get some time. And especially, hey, guys are going to get hurt. So Bossa may end up playing more than you expect. And the Chiefs think he's a day one kind of guy. So I'm really interested to see what he can do, especially because, he is a kind of hybrid. And those can either boom or bust. We've seen it before, Ryan. I mean, he's, I don't want to throw other names in there because I start to compare him. I don't think he's let's face it. I don't think he's Dorian O'Daniel, who was also kind of a tweener too.
Right.
I think he's a different player than that. So it's just, how high is his ceiling? I think there's a lot there though.
I agree with you. And I think that is, I would make the distinction there between a tweener and a hybrid. Tweener on the downside and hybrid on the upside. I agree with you. I would see Bossa in that type of form. The question becomes at what role can you institute that? Because one of the position groups that I think might surprise us, I'm really interested to see how it comes out, is the safety group. Who's going to play in the box? Is it going to be a box robber kind of floater type thing that I think Chamarri Conner is probably best suited for? Or is it going to be a true box safety where you're dropping Hicks down in there because I think he's the best candidate for that? That's really maybe the one that I'm most likely to be surprised by. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'll be really interested to see how that all shakes out because, we're thinking we're going to see a future where Chamarri Conner doesn't play the slot as much, that maybe he is just more of a traditional safety. Still doesn't mean he can't play in the slot and certainly line up in some of those things and maybe pick up some specific assignments, cover some tight ends, that kind of thing. At least be in a versatile place where the Chiefs can move him around a little bit. But the one thing is that I'm not sure that the Chiefs have 100% true free safety, somebody who is truly a pure back end guy. Everybody they've got, I think, is probably a little bit more suited for strong safety than free, and may just not have the complete skill set. Somebody's going to have to play that spot though, Ryan. And hey, is it an older guy like a Mike Edwards? Is it a younger guy like a Brian Cook? I think Jaden Hicks is the best suited of them all for your strong safety role and to be your kind of next Justin Reed. But, you're right. That's one of the things that we're going to learn, over the next month is just how do these guys look? And it is a passing camp. So you're going to learn a lot about the safeties, not everything because they can't hit anybody yet. And that'll help a lot when the pads come on in August. But you can at least, see a little bit of the speed, a little bit of the coverages. And hey, if we're seeing, big bombs down deep and you're hearing a lot of things about, hey, Mahomes and the deep ball is back, that's great for the offense. But it's probably telling you a little bit about the defense too.
Yeah, and you got to take both sides of the coin. We're going to talk more about what that would mean and who's on the downslope after we see a little bit. So Matt will be back with us next week. We're going to be here the rest of the week like we always are. So we appreciate you. Make sure that you like, sub, and hit the bell. And go check out Chiefs Digest. Matt, I really appreciate you not letting my enthusiasm get carried away here. So thanks for being the restraining valve, we'll call it.
I don't think you need a whole lot of restraining right now, Ryan. I think you're being reasonable.
Okay, free license to go crazy. That tomorrow, folks. Unlocked on Chiefs. Matt, thanks for being here.
Of course, my friend. Take care.
Crazy comes next. Thanks for being with us. Like, sub, hit the bell. Check out another Locked On show. And you locos, we appreciate you. Thanks for being here at 816-357-8781.